Welcome to Legal Penguin, the show where I summarize. I forgot my intro. Welcome to Legal Penguin, the show where I summarize a legal case so you don't have to. You don't have to. I'm your host, not a legal practitioner, and anything that is said on Legal Penguin is not and should not be used as legal advice. This is all just information that's available to the public. It's on the internet. Happy New Year! Happy New Year! It's been a minute and a half. It's like the end of January, but it's still a new year. So Happy New Year. And this is the first time we're seeing each other. So Happy New Year to you. And I hope you had a good festive season. I hope you did something that made you happy. I hope that this new year comes with good things only. We only want good things this year. Good things only. Unfortunately, the case that we're going to be covering today is anything but good things. It is the opposite of good things. Well, the ending is okay. It's a bit of a cliffhanger, but the in-between, not so good. Not so good at all. The first case that we are covering this new year is the Carmichele versus Minister of Safety and Security case. This is a 2001 case heard in the Constitutional Court. Well, this portion of it was heard in the Constitutional Court. This case went through a lot. It started off in the High Court, then it went to the Supreme Court of Appeal, then it went to the Constitutional Court, which is what I'm covering today, and then it went back to the High Court. But I'm only going to be focusing on the constitutional part process because that's the process that had the most impact. But before we get started, I do have to give you a very quick second disclaimer, very important disclaimer as well, that this case deals with criminal activities and the crimes are of sexual indecency and sexual indecency in all aspects of the term. I'm putting it lightly for YouTube, but I mean sexual indecency to all degrees. And if this is not something that you are in the right headspace to hear about today, I completely understand. And I will see you in the next video, which will not be dealing with sexual indecency. But if you are still here, let's get started. On the 6th of August 1995, it was a beautiful Sunday morning, and our applicant, Alex Carmichele, was waiting at her friend's house where she and her friend had agreed to meet. While waiting for her friend, Alex was attacked by a Mr. Frank Kutsia. The attack was very brutal and it was very vicious. He stabbed her multiple times around the face and head area, and he also attacked her with a pick handle. Where do you get a pick handle from? Luckily enough, despite how brutal the attack was, Carmichele was able to get away from the attack, and Kutsia was then arrested for breaking and entering and also attempted murder. Alex Carmichele then initiated proceedings in the High Court, where she was suing the Minister of Safety and Security, the public prosecutor, and the South African police. I never say the name fully. I always say the SAPS. She was suing the SAPS, the public prosecutor, and also the Minister of Safety and Security because she argued that these people failed to prevent the attack from happening. So they had all the chances in the world to prevent it from happening, and they didn't do that. And that is why she got attacked. Now, you're probably wondering, how were all of these people supposed to figure out that someone was going to break into a house and try to kill her? How were they supposed to see the future? Well, to figure the answer to that out, we're going to have to take it back and learn about our villain in this story. Not a great backstory, not the greatest backstory, so brace yourself. So Frank Kutsia was born in 1973, and from a very young age, it was very clear that Kutsia had problems. His mom knew it. She tried to get him help for it. The doctor said, no, this person is too young to be on medication, so good luck. Everyone knew it. Everyone could see that Kutsia had problems, and his problems were specifically sexual from a very young age, which is scary and disgusting. Early in his teenage years, Kutsia sexually assaulted one of his nieces, and when he was about 20 years old, he climbed into the window of one of his acquaintances, got into the bed while she was sleeping, and started to touch her very indecently. Luckily enough, the victim woke up and he jumped out of the window, but she was able to recognize that that's Kutsia. I know that person. And luckily enough, he was caught shortly after. He was then charged for breaking and entering and indecent assault, which he was charged. Listen to this. For the breaking and entering, he was given 18 months in prison. And for the indecent assault, getting into the bed of someone who is sleeping and you're not even supposed to be in there, he was given a fine. So, yes. And his prison sentence of 18 months was actually suspended for 4 years. And I've never understood the idea behind suspending someone's sentence. It's basically saying go gallivant for the next 4 years and then come back and serve your sentence, which really doesn't make sense to me at all. He was 20. He should have been arrested immediately, but anyway, he had those 4 years in between to go and gallivant. So you're probably thinking, okay, maybe he's going to use these 4 years to change and reform and find God, as most of these criminals do, right? He's going to change his ways. But less than 6 months later, Kutsia attempted to sexually assault a minor. Kutsia and the minor, who's known as E to protect her privacy, were school friends. And if they're school friends, that means Kutsia is either still in high school or he's in first year. And point is, he's friends with a minor, and that's a red flag on its own. On the 4th of March, it was a school dance, and it was a hotel. So Kutsia offered to walk E home, probably thinking that, okay, this is my friend and I trust him. E agrees. She says, okay, Kutsia, you can walk me home. Somehow on this walk, Kutsia managed to convince the minor to take a different path. Now, this path was far more quiet. Maybe he said it would be quicker. I'm not sure, but he managed to convince her somehow. And on this path, he then tried to kiss the minor, who rejected him because she's probably thinking, we're friends. Ew, don't do that. And not taking the rejection too well, Kutsia then decides to attack the minor. He brutally starts to punch and attack her, kicking her and ripping her clothes off, all with the intention to force himself on her. Basically, if you won't consent to what I want, then I'll just take what I want, which is disgusting. But as he is about to unleash his indecent attack, he realizes that she is now still. She is not moving. And in his mind, he starts thinking, oh my gosh, I've killed her. So he starts to panic, which I don't know what he was expecting. He was beating and punching and okay, now you're scared. So now he's scared and he runs off back to the hotel where the dance had happened, and he tells them, I have killed someone, please call the police. The hotel staff does not hesitate, and they do in fact call the police. Luckily, while all of that was happening, E manages to regain consciousness. She is not dead. She gathers all her clothes and she starts walking slowly to her home. She manages to get back all the way to her neighbor's house, where she then tells her neighbor what has happened to her. A few minutes later, E's mom also comes to the neighbor's house, where E tells her mom painstakingly what had happened to her. E's mom then rushes E to the hospital, and then later the two of them go to the police station where they report what has happened to E. The police station that they go to is the Neisner police station, and it's very important because this is seemingly, I think, the only police station in this village. You must remember this is a very small village, so things are very close-knit. The detective who was allocated to E's case was a Detective Sergeant David Klein, and he was the one who was going to be heading up the investigation. On the 5th of March, so the following day after the horrible incident, Kutsia appeared in court. Remember, he had handed himself in, so he wasn't really hard to find. Now he's appearing in court to ask for bail. So he's pleading for bail. Pleading for bail? Appearing for bail. Now he's appearing for bail on the 5th of March, 1995. During the appeal, Detective Klein then makes a recommendation to the prosecutor, and he basically tells the prosecutor that I think maybe the best thing would be to give Kutsia bail. Like just give him the bail and like a little warning, like a little slap on the wrist. I'm sure he'll understand. Oh, yeah, that's what he says. That's what he recommends. After everything that he's heard, that's what Detective Klein recommends. The prosecutor in Kutsia's bail hearing then does not mention this recommendation that he got from Detective Klein, but he also does not object to it. He then also does not mention that Coetzee already has a sentencing for that breaking and entering and indecent assault that he committed on his friend. He also doesn't mention this to the judge. And because the judge did not know about Coetzee's previous criminal activities, nor did he know about anything actually that has to do with Coetzee. Coetzee was granted bail, and he was unconditionally granted bail and told to reappear on the 17th of March 1995. So Coetzee is released on bail and he goes home to his mom. And of course, everybody else is freaking out. Miss T, who is E's mom, calls her friend Gosling. And Gosling just so happens, listen to this, Gosling just so happens to be Coetzee's mom's boss. Miss T then calls her friend Gosling and she basically expresses to her how worried she is and how sure she is that Coetzee is going to reoffend. He clearly has a pattern, he clearly has a problem, and he's going to reoffend. Gosling, also worried for her friend, goes over to the police station, the Knysna police station, where she is spoken to by an Officer Lowe, and she basically expresses as well that, okay, I'm also worried. This is a small town and this person, Coetzee, is clearly not okay. He is going to reoffend. We are worried. To which Officer Lowe tells her, I'm sorry, but there is nothing that we can do before a crime is committed. There is no law that protects you until someone has offended. You know, we can't just arrest him because you think or you feel like he's going to commit a crime. His bail is unconditional. So until he commits a crime, there's nothing that we can do. On the 10th of March, 1995, so 5 days after Coetzee has been released on bail, he calls Miss T and he says to her, I want to talk. Let's talk this out. And Miss T makes it clear that no, do not come here. I do not want to talk to you. But he still comes. He still pitches up at the house. That sounds like intimidation to me, but he still pitches up at the house to talk. Miss T kicks him off the property and she calls the police and tells them what has happened. Mind you, they still don't arrest him for pitching up. I mean, it is unconditional bail. He wasn't really, there was no protection order that said, don't step this close to their home, don't be this close. It was unconditional bail, so they couldn't really arrest him for that either. On the 13th of March, 1995, Mrs. Coetzee is being driven home by one of her relatives, and she is telling her relative how worried she is about her son. She's worried that her son is going to probably unalive himself or try to. Now, this relative, fun fact, just so happened to be a detective sergeant Grootboom who, wait for it, just also so happened to work at the same police station, Knysna police station, that was in charge of this entire case. So, I don't know if you're connecting dots. I'm not going to say connect them, but if you are, sure enough, when they get home, they find Coetzee on the floor and he had tried to unalive himself. But they managed to quickly rush him to the hospital where he was treated and then sent back home. On the 14th of March, 1995, Coetzee is then taken to the police station by his uncle, Grootboom, who then basically tells him to pour his heart out to the police officer, Lowe, and give a statement about why exactly he did the things that he did. Coetzee then admits in this statement that he really didn't know why he did the things that he did. He admits that he has a problem and he admits that he needs help, but he doesn't remember when or what happened. He just remembers walking E home. Then the next thing he knew, she was on the floor and she looked dead. And he doesn't remember what happened in between, but he knows that he has a problem and he admits that he has a problem. Upon hearing this, Lowe realizes that, okay, Coetzee is claiming that he doesn't remember what happened. And according to criminal law, specifically section 77, a person needs to understand why they are being trialed. You cannot trial someone who is not in the right mental state, so someone who's not in the right mental capacity, who doesn't understand. You cannot put this person on trial. This person must first be sent to a psychiatric facility, so like a mental hospital, where they must be treated until they are fit enough to stand trial. trial. And so Lowe makes an application or a recommendation that Coetzee must be sent to a mental facility where he must be treated, because he's clearly claiming that he was not mentally stable when he committed the crime. So he must be treated until he is seen to be better enough to stand trial. I hope that makes sense. This application is then granted, and on the 15th of March, Coetzee is sentenced to a mental facility, so a psychiatric hospital, where he is to stay until he's to stay for 30 days. Remember, this is the 15th of March. He was supposed to appear in court on the 17th of March. Now he's only going to come to court the following month, so after the 30 days. On the 18th of April, he is released from hospital, and the hospital concludes that 1, Coetzee is now mentally able to understand what is happening to him and why he's being trialed, and 2, there was never anything wrong with him in the first place. He has always understood what was going on, and he understood what he was doing when he was doing it. So Coetzee was then ordered by the courts to then appear on the 2nd of May, 1995. So now we need to introduce our applicant, who is Alex Carmichele, and this is the first time that she's appearing in this story. Alex Carmichele was a very close friend of Miss Gosling. If you remember, Gosling is the boss of Coetzee's mom. So Coetzee's mom's boss's friend. That probably didn't make sense, but I hope that you can understand it. Alex Carmichele used to stay at Gosling's house quite a lot. I mean, they're friends. She's always there. It's normal. And on multiple mornings, so now after Coetzee has been released, Carmichele realizes that Coetzee is always outside and he's always snooping around looking for something. So whenever she approaches him, Coetzee would say, "Oh no, I'm looking for Gosling." But that doesn't make sense because he would see that Gosling's car is gone. So who is he looking for? Gosling would also confirm with her friend that, "No, this is weird. I don't know why he's there, because he knows that I'm not there, because he knows my car is not there. I'm not sure why he's there." And they would report his weird behavior to the police, who would still then not do anything. They wouldn't do anything. Are we shocked at this point? No, we're not. We're not shocked. Which brings us back to the 6th of August, 1995, where this video started. It was a Sunday morning, and Gosling and her friend Alex Carmichele were supposed to meet. Carmichele heads over to her friend's house, Gosling, and she waits for her. But she realizes that, okay, Gosling is not here yet. Maybe she's still at work or she's still at the store. I'm not sure. But Gosling wasn't there yet. So Carmichele lets herself into the house. When Carmichele enters her friend's house, her best friend's house, there is Coetzee standing in the middle of this house that he has broken into for who knows what reason. Coetzee wastes no time and brutally attacks Carmichele. And remember, I said she was able to get away, and Coetzee was arrested shortly after. Now, upon hearing all of this, do you think it's fair that Carmichele sues the SAPS, the Minister of Safety and Security, and the public prosecutor for failing to take the necessary steps to prevent this incident from happening? Do you think it's fair? Do you think it's unfair? Because I'm still going to tell you what the court said, but I also want to know what you think. So Carmichele goes to the High Court, where she is suing all of these parties for failing to take the necessary steps to prevent this incident from happening to her. She claims that as a result of their inactiveness, she has suffered damages, and therefore she wants to claim for those damages. The parties then argue that they had no legal obligation to protect her before a crime has been committed. They don't have to do that. And surprisingly, the High Court and the Supreme Court of Appeal agreed with this. They said that none of these parties owed her the legal protection or the lawful protection, especially before a crime is committed. They didn't have to protect her in that instance. Carmichele then makes an application to the Constitutional Court, where she now argues that them not protecting her is also a violation of her constitutional rights. Now, this is a new argument that she had not brought before in the High Court and in the Supreme Court of Appeal. She argues that constitutionally, she has the right to things like equality, freedom, privacy, and security, and all of these parties have that duty to protect that, and if they don't, then they are violating her constitutional right to all of these rights that I've just mentioned. So I'm basically giving a very, very rough summary of everything that was argued. But the Constitutional Court then agrees with Carmichael, finally, right? They agree that as the police and Minister of Safety and Security, your duty is to protect the public, especially women, from domestic violence and things that may occur from violent criminals. The court also adds that as a public prosecutor, your duty is literally to disclose any relevant information. And by not disclosing Carmichael's previous criminal activities, you are failing in your duty. You are failing in your job. And therefore, you also can be held liable for the damages that have now happened. I'm sorry, I don't mean to catch like attitude with these people. I'm sure I'm trying to be respectful, but it's just crazy. Because what do you mean, as the police, you don't owe someone protection? That is literally your job. If we can't trust you, who can we trust? But most importantly, the court also added that the goal is always to promote the spirit of the Constitution. So the goal is always to promote the Constitution. And when there isn't a law for something, the court's duty is to develop the common law. You can't just leave it as, oh, there's no law for this, so sorry, even if it violates your constitutional rights, there's no law for it, so oh well. Your role as the court is to develop the common law. The court concluded that yes, you are all therefore going to be held liable or can be held liable for the damage that Carmichael has now suffered. And so the case was sent back to the High Court, who would then deliberate or reach a conclusion on what had to be done here. And because it was sent back, I'm not really sure what the High Court then ruled. I'm not sure if Carmichael got paid any compensation. I'm really not sure, but I know that because of what the Constitutional Court said, it affirmed that parties like the SAPS and ministers of security, those people can be sued and held liable if they have failed in their duties. If you have any knowledge about what happened after the Constitutional Court, so if you know what the High Court then ruled, then could you please leave it down in the comments below? Because I am very curious if she got money. Because I feel like she deserves it. It's a lot. I mean, going through attempted murder, that is traumatizing. And she needs to get a big bag for that. And I hope she did. But that is where the case concludes. So that is where the constitutional case concludes. And that is where our video is going to end for today. Thank you so much for joining me. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below. Leave a hi, leave a happy new year, leave a happy birthday. It's not my birthday, but it could be someone's birthday, and they might appreciate that comment. Do I have any 2 cents that I want to add to this? No, I think I already added my 2 cents in between. But you can add your 2 cents in the comments. I love your 2 cents and I would like to hear your 2 cents. Because when 2 cents come together, they make a 4 cents. But until I see you next time, good luck and goodbye.
Quack.